Imagine you get reincarnated into the world, but you don't have the stats like all the other overpowered Isekai guys, but you have the ability to see the true power people have. Well, if you're our main man, ours is able to gather a team of well-built people who excel in their field. From swordsmen to beasts and even mages, our man can choose the best of them. Will this team be able to grow as ours thinks? Well, keep watching. The show begins in a certain city. People were going about their daily routine. A man just got home from work and decided to cool off by playing some video games. The next day, as he steps out to go to work, he immediately has a cardiac arrest and falls unconscious. He suddenly wakes up in another world to the sound of voices. He opens his eyes to see a lady standing in front of him and he wonders who she is. The man wonders if he was somehow rushed to the hospital by a good Samaritan and the lady was the nurse on duty. He looks around and thinks that the hospital looks old. A dog starts barking, but it flies across the man's field of vision and the man is surprised to see a flying dog. A maid enters the room with a tray to tell the lady that her tea is ready, and the lady thanks the maid. The maid tells the lady that her son is cute, and the man looks at his reflection on the tray. He can't believe he's a baby now and wonders if he was dreaming. He was born in the 200th year of the summer of the 4th calendar, and his name was Ars Luvit. He was born in Lamberg, which is in the province of Mission. 3 years later, Ars had grown considerably. He is in the study when she knocks on the door and invites her in. She tells him she brought him some tea, and he thanks her. He realizes that he lost his life in his previous world and was reborn as someone named Ars Luvit. Since his birth, he was able to master reading and writing, which made him knowledgeable of the new world. He knows that he was born in the summer of the 4th realm, but he had never seen such a map, which made him realize that he was no longer on Earth. He also discovered that there was a technique called magic that people used to conjure up mysterious phenomena. He thought the world was like a game. The Luvit family he was born into was a noble household, and they were in charge of managing a small region called Lamberg. Their house was so big and beautiful that Ars thought it was a castle. They had many servants to take care of them, and a cook who prepared delicious meals for them every day. Ars was happy to be reborn into such a wealthy family, for since his birth he had also learned that he had the power that no one else had. Ars enters the training room, surprising all the soldiers. He greets them and asks if he can watch them from the safety of the entrance. The soldiers tell him he'll be fine from that distance. They are surprised to see the prince coming to the training room at such a young age. They were convinced that he would be a great warrior when he grew up. Ars goes over to a master who is teaching a student soldier. The master knocks the trainee down and scolds him, but the trainee gets back up and decides to try again. Ars uses his evaluate skill on the trainee to look at his stats. He realizes that the student has great aptitude and archery skills, and he figures out that the student will be good with bows. The master knows the trainee and the trainee looks exhausted. Ars approaches the trainee Malay and calls out to him, which surprises Malay because he didn't think Ars knew his name. Ars asks him if he has ever used a bow, but Malay tells him that he will never use such a weapon because a real man doesn't shoot his enemies from a safe distance like a coward. Ars tries to suggest that he might be very good with a bow and asks him to try it. Malay chews on his thoughts, but when other soldiers ask him to try it, just as Ars suggested, he decides to give it a try. Malay picks up a bow and arrow, but confesses that he's never shot one before. A soldier suggests that he move closer to the target to reduce the risk of hurting others, but Ars is confident that he can hit the target from his position. Malay notches the arrow and aims the bow at the target. He lets the arrow fly and it hits the bull's eye. They think it was just dumb luck and ask him to try again. Malay shoots several arrows and they all hit the target. All the soldiers around him tell him he was born to be an archer, and Malay conveniently realizes that using a bow isn't so bad since all is fair in war. The soldiers wonder how Ars was able to figure out that Malay will be good with a bow, and he tells them it was his instinct. The soldiers are impressed by this, but Ars knows if he told them the truth about his appraisal skill, they wouldn't believe him. Though his ability was the real deal, he was not able to use it on himself, which he wasn't very happy about. During dinner time, Ars was impressed with the meal prepared by the chef. He was about to dig in when his father called out to him. His father tells him he was informed of how Ars discovered Malay's talent with the bow and he was impressed. Ars was a bit scared of his father because he always looks so angry. Ars uses his appraisal skill to look at his father's stats. He was impressed that his father was able to rise from a farmer to a noble using his martial arts prowess. His father tells him to hone his instincts because he could become the lord of the land one day. His father was convinced the ability to detect other people's talent would be useful to him in the future. His father offers him his portion of the dinner so he can grow up quicker, and Ars thanks him for that. After that day, Ars studied more about the Empire, and he realized that the future was a bit vague because the leaders were corrupt, several revolts were coming up amongst the commoners, and various nobles were focusing on autonomy to quell the revolts. Ars feared that the Empire might enter an all-out war if things don't change for the better. He couldn't envision himself leading his troops to war, and he wonders if he'll be able to keep the people of Lambert safe. He wanted to protect them because they were so kind to him. He remembers his father's words about his instincts, and he immediately gets an idea. He wears a costume and goes out on the streets. He immediately uses his appraisal skills to check out the stats of the people in the town. He is exhausted after using his skill for a long time, and he sits in an alley. A woman suddenly chases a man out of her shop because she doesn't want to sell her goods to him. Ars figures out that the man doesn't look like the people in his town. A boy points at the man who is in Malkin, and he tries to get his mom to help him, but everyone avoids him because he's filthy. Ars remembers that the Malkin are a group of people who came to Summerforth from across the sea. He knows that most of them were brought here as slaves, so he decides to offer the man his bread. Everyone wonders why the heir of House Leuven is helping Malkin. The man takes the bread and begins to eat, tears rolling down his face. Ars uses his assessment skill on the man and is surprised to see that his stats are almost perfect. He knows the man can become a great warrior, but the man gets up to leave after thanking him for the bread. Ars chases after him, but the man tells him not to follow him because the people of the city will be angry. Ars asks the man if he wants to become his follower, which surprises the man. Ars wanted to use his ability to recruit people with potential to make his domain stronger. The man thinks Ars is just pretending, but Ars introduces himself and shows him his family crest. The man is surprised, but Ars tells him he wants him to become his follower because he senses he has a lot of talent, but the man wonders how Ars could sense that, and they just met, but Ars tells him it's just something he knows. The man tells him he doesn't want to cause him any trouble because people won't like him taking a Malkin as a retainer. Ars tells him not to worry because he'll think of something, but the man rejects his offer and walks away. Ars continues to follow the man, knowing that he may never find someone else with such stats. The man's stomach growls and Ars decides to use that as leverage. He tells the man that they have a cook who can make him a buffet of whatever he wants. The man stops and decides to follow Ars home. Ars takes him home, and the man can't believe that Ars is really the son of the Lord. The cook serves them some food, but they serve the man a smaller portion because he's a Malkin. The Malkin is told to leave immediately after his meal, and Ars realizes that prejudice against Malkins runs very deep. He realizes that he won't be able to talk the servants out of it, so he decides to share his meal with the man, which surprises everyone. The maids decide to serve the man a better meal, and he eats his fill. Ars wonders what Ritsu the Malkin is doing in the village, and Ritsu tells him that he was once a member of a band of mercenaries. He tells Ars that they disbanded after most of them lost their lives, and he's been wandering around ever since. Ars wonders why he didn't join another mercenary group, and Ritsu tells him that he wasn't hired because he didn't have any honors to his name. The servant suggests that it's time for Ritsu to leave, but Ars tells them that he brought Ritsu home to make him his retainer. The servants tell him that Lord Raven will disapprove, but Ars takes the matter to him anyway. His father tells him that it's unacceptable to make a Malkin his retainer, but Ars tells him that they'll waste Ritsu's potential if they throw him out. His father reminds him that Malkins are inferior to them, so no Malkin has any special talent. Ars is disappointed that his father believes the conventional information about Malkins, but he tries to convince him otherwise. He asks his father to test Ritsu if he wants to, and his father wonders why he's so sure of his talent. His father remembers that he discovered Malay's talent and decides to test Ritsu since Ars insists. He tells Ars that he will employ Ritsu as a soldier if he proves to be talented, and Ars thanks him for this. His father tells him that the test will be a mock fight between him and Ritsu, and that Ritsu will be hired if he's able to beat him. Ars tries to convince his father that Ritsu is no match for him because he's so young, but his father reminds him that he said Ritsu is talented. His father decides to give Ritsu a handicap to make up for the difference in talent and tells him that they can continue since he understands the conditions. They leave the room, and Ritsu wonders why Ars is trying so hard to make him his retainer. He thinks Ars is showing pity, but Ars is wondering if he doesn't want to be their retainer. He tells him that he can turn it down if he wants to, but Ritsu tells him that it's the best offer he ever got. He finds the offer unbelievable because Malkins are usually persecuted everywhere they go. Ars tells him that he needs him because one day he'll be lord of the land and he needs Ritsu at his side. Ritsu assures him that he'll do his best. Ritsu enters the training room, and the soldiers realize that he's a Malkin. Ars' father asks the Malkins to prepare their swords while Gratz brings in Harglass. He tells Ritsu to pick up a sword and tells him that if he can land a single blow before time runs out, he wins. Ars thinks that Ritsu has the odds in his favor. Ars' father tells Ritsu to introduce himself before the duel, and after Ritsu does so, he introduces himself as Lord Raven. Although Ritsu was able to keep up with Lord Raven, he was unable to land a hit on him. Lord Raven lands a blow that knocks him down, but he gets back up. Lord Raven reminds him that he has little time left, and Ritsu remembers Ars saying that he needs him. He decides to go all out and lunges at Lord Raven. He slides underneath and then uses the sunlight to his advantage to try to hit Lord Raven, but he blocks just in time. Lord Raven announces that the fight is over, but Ritsu looks back and sees that the Hourglass is still running. Everyone realizes that Ritsu is able to graze Lord Raven, and they wonder who he is. True to his word, Lord Raven decides to employ him as a soldier, and Ars runs over to congratulate him on his employment. Lord Raven tells Ars that his ability to sense people's abilities is top-notch, and that he's confident that Ars will serve well in the coming chaotic age. He is confident that Ars will become a great lord one day. Meanwhile, all the soldiers wonder how Ritsu became so strong, and they gather around him, hoping to learn his secret. Later that day, Ritsu changes into his new clothes and promises to repay his debt to Ars with his life. Well, that's all for now. Should we cover the rest of the episodes? We are still going to cover them, so yeah, come back again.